ready for them Chiefs? Y'all ready for them Chiefs?
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are at. I am the K and back, and we are back. Hopefully we get an appearance here by Aaron or Gooch, but if not, I am here for maybe about an hour or so. We'll see how it goes. So yesterday was first preseason game, and I'm sure we'll have some questions and comments and maybe some overreactions and some corrections and who knows what on this fine Sunday evening. So I am glad to to be here and see all of you guys, and we'll see what our show holds tonight. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to anyone in the chat if you have any comments or questions. And in the meantime, yeah, I'll talk. I'll give I guess kind of a preface for my thoughts on this whole preseason and when we're watching games. And so I saw some overreactions yesterday. I was on three different post-game live streams, and at least on one of them, I was seeing some like crazy overreactions. And so I just want to say it's preseason, right? And I think we kind of build up expectations in our heads about certain players, and we, before we even get to the games, because of all the hype that happens, we kind of have this picture in our head of how the players are going to perform, or how they should perform, or how we want them to perform. And especially talking about rookies here, because I think we just want them to look like veterans, or we want them to look like other teams' star rookies, year after year, just making plays all over the field. And even sometimes I think we compare rookies to, rookies on our team to other rookies on our team. And so I just want to say that, every player is a different person. So every player, especially for rookies, every player's path, this preseason is going to be different. It's just, we're not robots, players aren't robots. And so, some players get really nervous before games. Some players get super amped up before games, and, that can affect you physically, right? When I've always been a big guy, but in college, I went to a small college school, and I got talked into joining the soccer team. Even though I never played soccer, I'd played other sports before, but they needed to fill out a roster. So, I was watching practices a couple days in a row, and, my competitive nature kicked in. But anyway, I would get amped up before the games, and the adrenaline would start pumping in my body. And sometimes I would feel completely gassed before I even got started, just because of my nerves. So, we don't know how each of these players, what affects them. And so for me, for preseason, we want to look at, how is their technique? Do they know their assignments? Are they improving play by play? Are they improving week by week? But I want to say, I think the most important thing for preseason game number one is it gives the players and the coaching staff a picture of where each player is at and what they need to work on. Because sometimes that's a cloudy picture when you're going up against your own guys in practice. It's like for every, oh man, he made a great catch, it's, oh man, was that because this cornerback isn't that good? Or because the receiver is good, or both? How do we know? Well, preseason games give us a better gauge of that, right? So, yeah, I mean, this is a valuable learning tool. What I'll be looking for is not necessarily preseason game one. Preseason game one kind of gave us a baseline that we can look to see, all right, now we're expecting improvement, right, in preseason game two. If you noticed anything about this player or that player that you felt was a negative, do they work on that, and do they show improvement in preseason game number two? So I think that's the big thing here. I want to stop here real quick. I see we got Thomas with us. We got Night Hunter with us. Maybe a few others out there, but they're in the chat here. So welcome, guys. It's good to see you. Thomas asks us thoughts on third and fourth string. It's interesting that you say that, and I just gave my preface here. And I'm sure you heard it, but I wasn't impressed with the third and fourth string, particularly the offensive line and the defensive line. Now, is that concerning? Well, I mean, the reality is most of these guys we probably didn't have on our 53-man roster, right? And some of them, it's easy to... I want to say, and I'm not saying anyone out here is doing this, but it's easy to overreact when you see the sum of the whole look bad and just like hastily generalize each individual performance, based on that. For example, like if you get to second or third string and you see Nick Allegretti out there, as part of that unit, whichever unit it is, you got to remember, like we've seen Nick Allegretti play, next to other good offensive linemen. And so if Nick Allegretti had to, based off of the preseason game yesterday, you might wonder about the whole unit. But if you look at the individual players, like we know Nick Allegretti, he would be, completely serviceable for a game or two or three next to Orlando Brown and Creed Humphrey, for instance. Would I worry about Austin Ryder? Yeah, I would, but at the same time, he would still be covered somewhat, if we had to put him in, he would be covered somewhat with Joe Tooney on the left and Trey Smith on the right compared to, second or third stringers on there. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying here. And so for that reason, the units I didn't think looked good, but they're backups for a reason. Do you feel better? Would I feel better if our backups looked better? Yeah, absolutely. Let's see how they look in preseason game 2, especially preseason game number 3. I don't have like blind faith in Andy Reid and Andy Heck, but I do have a pretty good amount of faith in Andy Reid and Andy Heck. And so, like I said, preseason game 1 was kind of a baseline. Let's see where each individual player, where each individual unit goes from there. Because that's, to me, that's kind of like what this was. This was all right, let's see what we got. Let's get this first game out of the way. And now it gives us something true to compare each individual player and each individual unit to moving forward. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, Thomas, but I'm trying to strike a balance between, I didn't really like what I saw, and trying to also kind of, keep in mind kind of the more rational side and balance between my feelings and more, I guess, logical thought, if that makes sense. Watson looked all right. Can't say much. I only watched the first half. Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with Watson. I felt like he made some tough catches. And I think that's important for us. And yeah, it's preseason, but I thought he displayed good finger strength and some good toughness in there. Those throws, we had some receivers last year that those would have been tipped passes, knocked away. They certainly would have been a low percentage catch. And so, I mean, he stood out to me. And at first, when I saw him on the field, I thought he was a tight end. So, yeah, I thought Watson solidified himself, barring some kind of major catastrophe in performance in preseason game 2 or 3. I thought he solidified himself in the top 6 wide receivers to make the roster. Yeah. KL368 is in the house. How are you doing? Want to appreciate all you guys joining us on this Sunday night. I think Aaron or Gooch, or maybe both, will join us at some time. Right now it's just the K. But I'm glad to be here with you guys for maybe about an hour or so on this Sunday evening, maybe Monday morning, where some of you guys are at. I know we got some people all over the world, and we're happy about that. Knight says, yeah, it's preseason game 1. Temper what you see and understand half those guys will not make the roster. Yeah, it's absolutely true. And it was interesting, and I don't have the benefit of this. I've only watched the game once, so I haven't got to rewatch it. And to be honest, my internet was a little shaky, and so I was watching it on YouTube TV. So there were times where, I couldn't really keep up with all the action, and then I was busy a little bit in the third quarter. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to rewatch it a little bit, because there were things that I guess concerned me a little bit, or I guess I should say I was disappointed in, that didn't seem to disappoint other people. But at the same time, as I said at the beginning of the show, we kind of get these expectations, and so, it's possible. I'm not saying it is, but it's possible that when what I was expecting to see out of Leo Chanel was closer to Micah Parsons, I'm not going to confirm if, that was the vision that I had in my mind. Maybe someone had visions of Marcus Peters when they were watching Trent McDuffie, or Jamal Charles when they were watching Isaiah Pacheco, whatever. I mean, who knows what everyone's expectations were. But, I think depending on how you went into the game is probably, whatever those expectations are, probably determines your perception of how each player ended up doing. So, but yeah, Knight, it's kind of like what you're saying. You just have to really keep it in context that there's a good deal of guys who probably won't make the team, and some of the other guys, they might not look good as part of a whole in that second or third or fourth, string unit, but most of them will be passable with the other first stringers next to them. So, I mean, it's not like our depth is bad. It's just like the whole of the depth, looks worse than what it is. But again, preseason game number 1. And I'm excited for that because every single coach out there, I even saw a tweet about Karloftis was the bus ride to the airport. He was going to be watching every single one of his reps to see what he needed to work on. So, I mean, it really is. It's an important learning tool for all these guys to see, maybe they thought they were pretty good at this or that. Maybe they thought because they were going up against other Chiefs players on the opposite side of the ball that they were really good at this or that. And then they got into the game and they realized, you know what, I got to work on that a lot more this week. Or maybe a coach had been telling them, hey, you're doing this wrong. You need to do it this way. And they had been kind of stubborn until they got embarrassed in the game, and I'm going to speculate here. And I don't mean this about Leo Chanel, but I can remember 1 or 2 snaps where I saw Leo Chanel chasing the running back, and all of a sudden he had one of those kind of awkward Madden Madden graphic halts where he realized that he was taking the wrong angle to the running back. There's Gooch. And so he had to stop and readjust, and I think for Chanel, that's probably an important lesson to learn that, this isn't the Big Ten, and you're probably not as fast as the running backs you're going to be, going up against. So we'll see how that goes how that goes in the future there. Gooch is in the house. We are book. We need an A.
I am here, so I can be fined.
Gooch is here so he doesn't get fined.
It ain't a live stream without the Gooch, baby. I'm here for the people.
He's here for the paycheck, and so he doesn't get fined. He already made that clear. Thomas said that Frank looked better. Yeah, I'm going to have to... Luckily, I got it DVR'd so I can go back and watch everything. And Liz backs that up. Liz is in the house. Hey, Liz, good to see you. We're missing our A. Can you get our A so we can be back? Liz said he did look faster, but looked to be pushed around easier. Yeah, I'm going to have to rewatch it. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk on any players that it doesn't stick out in my mind. Yeah, especially had to rewatch the third and fourth quarter. First watch just looked like a car. Yeah, it did. And that's what stuck in my mind. So I'm definitely probably going to have to watch it again. I think my problem is, Thomas, and if you can share your secret of motivation to me, it's like, first off, I hate rewatching something that I've already watched, unless it's like a really good movie, which generally for me is a Adam Sandler movie. Like if we could get a Chiefs game, with some Adam Sandler movie in there, I'd probably watch it every day. But, unless I force myself to go back and watch all 22, like for you guys, it's really hard for me to get the motivation to especially 3 or 4 times. I don't know if I can do that. Thomas says, want to see the rotation on the D line. I don't know about anyone else. Was anybody else surprised that the opening drive on defense had Mike Dana out there? Like, I know it was probably, it could have been the CBS coverage messing up. Yeah, it was the first down, likely to run it. So you put Dana out there. But I don't know. There are some things that stuck out to me that might not have stuck out to other people. Gooch, what stuck out to you?
About the game?
Yeah.
That if our starters get hurt, we're in a world of pain. That Pacheco looks good. Better than I thought he was going to look.
That he definitely took a grown man's job?
I believe so. That Rojo on a third and one, even against second string, couldn't power his way 1 yard. These are things that stood out to me. I mean, they just stood out like 3rd and 1, you're a power back. This is your wheelhouse. And you got stopped.
And do you think that means more simply because of the fact that Rojo isn't a pass protector, and he's probably not really a guy that you're going to count on much to catch passes. So if the one thing you should be good at, you're not good at, is that kind of concerning to you?
The thing is that we signed you as kind of, like you said, a CEH insurance. Now, nobody knew you were going to get a 7th round running back that was going to look good in camp and also put some good film in a preseason game, even though everything's vanilla, it's still good film.
Right.
And for all intents and purposes, if you're going to run like that, we've got a younger option as a power back in Gore, who also, I believe I've been told, was the only running back with a 50-yard rush and a 50-yard reception last year.
Yeah, I might have thrown that out a few times.
So it worries me. It doesn't worry me per se, because what it does allow to do, if he doesn't pick it up or whatever, it still allows the Chiefs to get younger, and which is really what you want, especially now while Patrick is still 25, 26. Have some people that can grow with him, and then as he gets older, still get younger. But then as he has more command over the offense and stuff like that, like, I think it'll only help out.
Yeah, and what do you think here about KL368's comment here? Really, our offensive line made it hard to evaluate anything. Quarterbacks had pressure right, left, and center. And so, even though it mentions quarterbacks only, I kind of thought the same thing with the running backs, actually. Like, I think you can draw either one of three conclusions. That either the backup offensive lines really made it hard for our running backs to get anything. And I think that could possibly be fair, because I can remember multiple times where it seemed like the defense was in the backfield waiting for the running back to get the handoff. Or is it that all the other running backs are just trash, or is it both?
Well, I didn't see McKinnon. Did he get in?
I'm not sure. The original times I thought McKinnon got in, it was actually Pacheco. So I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the snaps.
I think in most cases it might be a combination of both. But here's the problem: if it is the old line and you guys are the second string, I mean, you're taught how to block from Pee-wee, So if you're having trouble blocking like same skill level as you people, that's a problem, especially for you to be in the NFL. But then, two, why aren't the quarterbacks changing the protection? Especially Henne, who's a veteran. Bouchel's been in this offense 2 years. I mean, as much as, if we're going to discuss it like that, as much as wins go in the quarterback's favor, if your offensive line is devastated like that, it's either talent, coaching, or at the quarterback's feet for not changing protection. That's how I look at it.
All right, so we had 52 yards rushing on 19 carries. So that's what, about 2.5 yards per carry average. And most of that, 28 of that, was 3 Dustin Crum carries. So you take that away, you're looking at 24 yards on 16 carries. And now you're at what, 1.5 yards per carry?
Did you say 24 yards?
Right. If you take out Dustin Crum's 3 carries for 28 yards, you're left with 16 carries for 24 yards.
But then on the flip side of that, like, it's just preseason game one. Maybe it's jitters. Getting back into, like Mahomes said, you got to get hit once or twice to kind of get the juices flowing and stuff again. Maybe it's just first game wake-ups.
Yeah, at this point, I'm like, my position was, and you probably missed the beginning here, but my position was this game basically sets the baseline, moving forward. Like it's the initial, Here, let me mute this for a second since that siren's going off. Sorry about that. I got a fire station and police station. They're both like 2 blocks away. So anyway.
Which is kind of ironic because as you had yours going by, mine was going by too. And if anybody asks, I was with you guys the whole time.
Yeah, if anyone asks, I'm going to tell them you were with Frank Clark. So
don't tell them that. They might be looking for the guns.
But anyway, what I was saying was that this game basically it sets a baseline, for everything. And what we're really going to be looking at, we shouldn't spend too much time dissecting the negative in this game. It gives us a baseline to build on for game 2 and 3, so that that's what we'll look at. We want to look at, is there growth, and what does the growth look like from this game to game 2, and then similarly to game 3. And so that should be our main concern, not necessarily the negative performances, while we can certainly build on, the positives. KL368 said, Herring looked great. Stallworth flashed some good push. Yeah, and we even had a Saunders play in there. And I can look at things wrong, but to me it kind of stood out that both of those players were playing in the fourth quarter, right? And Stallworth particularly has been in the NFL for a few seasons already? Do you know specifically, Gooch?
At least a couple for sure.
Yeah, I'm looking it up here. He's 26, so I'm going to get, let's see. He was an undrafted free agent in 2018. So he's played 4 seasons. I just found it kind of interesting. Like, to me, if you're playing in the fourth quarter, I don't know that it says something positive about the way the coaching staff feels about you, especially if you're a veteran. But am I reading too much into that? What do you think, Gooch? What do you guys think in the chat? Am I reading too much into that? Because a lot of people I heard thought that Herring and Stallworth both, flashed and looked good, but I just found it interesting that both of them were still playing in the fourth quarter, whereas generally, I would think that you would want to get guys out, especially veterans, if you saw the positive you wanted to see from them, and saw enough from them, you would get them out of the game. Where to me it kind of seemed like, I don't know, that was kind of my thinking into it. But you guys can let me know, why you disagree with that if you do disagree with it.
I think if you're playing into the fourth quarter, it's only one of two things. One, they're trying to give you more run, so they can see those flashes and see if they happen more often than not. Or 2, they're trying to give you every opportunity to put some good film, some good stuff on film, so that when they cut you, there's more of a chance of you getting picked up by another team. The one thing the Chiefs have always been good about is letting people go with the opportunity to pop on another team. Like, they don't hold them for no reason if they know they're not going to use it. They want to give you a shot. You're not going to make our team, but you might make somebody else's team. You know what I mean? So,
right.
That's where I think when you're playing somebody that's flashed, you're either giving them more time so you can see more, so you can evaluate, because cut down's in 2 days.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So you let them play a little longer, see if you see something worth holding on to, or you've already decided you're going to cut them, we're going to play them so they can get some good tape out there, and somebody else will come looking when we cut them. That's what I think it is.
Yeah, and I guess my feeling is if it is the case of the latter, then I would expect those veteran players to be part of the first cuts. That seems to be the way the front office works. Is if the coaching staff has established that, this guy isn't likely to make our roster and that player is a veteran, usually they're pretty good about, they're going to cut that player earlier. We kind of saw that maybe already with DeAndre Baker, but, clearly what they saw out of him was definitely not good enough that he didn't even make it to the preseason game. But, generally if there's a veteran who they know has just too far to climb to make the roster, generally those are the guys that they're going to cut that would be part of the first cuts so that they can have a better chance to catch on with the team, give them more time to catch on. So I would expect them to be part of those cuts that happen by Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, Night Hunter reminds us that Reed is running basic packages for evaluation purposes to make it simpler for those that never played in Kansas City before. And I think that's part of the baseline, right? You run the vanilla stuff, and everyone's getting graded on the exact same basis. And if you can't perform the vanilla stuff, it's going to be nearly impossible for you to even come close to running, the offense as is. So, I think that's important for these guys for some of them to slowly add on there. Yeah, Thomas, I think Carlos will be part of the starting lineup too. They're just going to ease him back in there. And, it's preseason, so they probably feel pretty good, about what he can do. And it doesn't hurt to give guys like Dana and Kando and some of the younger guys, more snaps. And, of course, they wanted to, at least in my opinion, is they want to give Herring and Stallworth and others a chance to make it, so... KL368 says, Rojo missed on some assignments in pass blocking, but that O-line was doing no favors for him. We talked about, Gooch and I filmed an episode of the Broguehead Huddle for RGR late last night with Dan Andrews of The Dan Show, and or at least we probably ended up filming a couple episodes at least. And one of the things we talked about was Rojo. Like, if you go back, I want to say, off the top of my head, in his career, he's had 90 pass blocking opportunities during the regular season in his full career. And he only had like 8 his first season, and he only had like 12. Do you remember, Gooch? Is that what I said last night? He only had 12 last season. And his PFF grade was hilariously low. Now, I understand, we all laugh at PFF grades, right? And that's because, to an extent, there's some nuance there, right? If Patrick Mahomes gets like a 60-something and he probably should have had a 90-something, we can laugh at that. But Ronald Jones' pass blocking grade last year was a 12.4. That's basically nothing. Right? Like, it is so low that I think you can look past, the PFF fluff, or whatever you want to call it. And that's got to give you reason to pause. He also isn't a guy who, gives you explosive run plays or pass plays if you go back and, and look at his past season or two as well. So, I don't, at this point, I really don't know what he brings to the table, but I agree with that. My feeling was the offensive line wasn't doing favors, for any of the running backs. But you know what? Maybe that goes back to what Night Hunter said there. Maybe part of that was because our runs were vanilla. Maybe that's a lot of it. I found it interesting that we had 3rd and 1, and we had CEH, and we had Michael Burton on the field. What did we do? We gave the ball to Burton on 3rd and 1 instead of even, letting CEH, try something there. Maybe that was intentional. Maybe Andy Reid wanted to put something on film, for later, to get it in everybody's minds that, you can't just key on CEH and you can't just expect a pass. We'll just give it to Burton since, he's 2 yards away from the line of scrimmage. I don't know. What do you think, Gooch? What do you guys think in the chat as well? We're interested in knowing what you all believe here. I know what my daughter thinks, and it's not something good. So, well, maybe Gooch can't talk to us at the minute here or moment here.
I was actually trying to figure out where we were on the question. I got distracted for a second and I missed it.
Well, I was specifically talking about that 3rd and 1 play where instead of giving the ball to CEH, we gave it to Burton on the inside handoff there. And if you thought that was Andy Reid trying to show something, trying to get something in defensive coordinators' heads, something on film, or, if that said anything about how they felt about CEH, because, it was that first drive. And I do believe that Andy only wanted Pat out there for one drive. So for, my interpretation of it was Andy didn't feel confident that CEH could pick up that 3rd and 1, and he didn't want to have to punt and bring the first team back out for a second drive. That's how I interpreted it, but I could understand if other people thought that maybe he was trying to put some stuff on film and mess with defensive coordinators or whatever. But what did you think? What was your interpretation of that particular play?
I just don't trust him to get it. Andy's always played with a fullback. There's nothing that he could put on film that would surprise anybody because he's always run with a fullback. He's always done the fullback short yardage. You just don't know when he's going to call it. He's always done a fullback wheel, just like the one with Sherman. I mean, these are all staples. So I don't think he's putting it on film because people are already planning for that when they see Burton on the field. What fullback only is 5% of Andy Reid's offense. You know what I'm saying? So if you put him out there, it's got to be something involving him. I think CEH had that one semi-explosive 6-yard pickup, but he doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there you have it, guys. We're in agreement there. So, good news for those of us who've been enduring these 100-degree temperatures. Hell is going to freeze over. That'll trickle on to wherever you're at. So expect cooler weather in your forecast. I am meteorologist Keys. Thanks for joining us. All right. Wrong one. Let me see. Liz says, I thought Pacheco looked good as well, but been reading in articles that we as Chiefs fans are basically overreacting to what his actual abilities are. But what I saw looked good, but that's me. Yeah, I think maybe the truth is, somewhere in between. There could be some overreacting going on. There could be a little underreacting going on. It could be everything in between. I certainly think there are some positives that, that we can be somewhat excited about. At the same time, we're only one preseason game in and training camp and stuff. But, right now, you look at 7th rounders, and especially, later 7th rounders, those are basically guys that are UDFAs that you want to make sure you get. And so you could look at Pacheco that way, and I could understand why people would, say, be cautious about it. But for me, I think one of the big things is that he might look like the best pass protector of our running backs. And as a rookie, coming in and looking like that, I think it makes it easier. You take a 4.37, a kid who, doesn't shy away from contact, has a little bit of explosiveness, and he can pass protect, and he doesn't look bad when he's going out to receive the ball as well. That has the recipe for a 3-down running back, and you don't usually get that a lot of times from a rookie running back. So to me, and I don't know how much you need that in an Andy Reid offense, but it's certainly good to see. But yeah, I think we could see a bit more before we start comparing him to like the top running backs in the NFL. Like for me, I wanted to see an explosive run from him. Give me a 20, 25 yard run or longer in a preseason game. And then I'll start to, and then I won't get hyped. I'll say, okay, I need to see 2 or 3 more of those. And then if he does it, I'll probably say, okay, well, I need to see 2 or 3 more of those. And then I'll start to get really hyped. But, yeah, I think it's fair to be somewhere in between. But fans generally go to one extreme or the other. They get either really excited or they're just like a Scrooge and bitter and have to protect their heart from, the Todd Haley years and Herm Edward years or whatever. Kale368 says McKinnon was in for one play with the second team, and he played a couple special teams there. Henne only had the one drive, and the rest was Bushell and Crum. Now, I heard some people weren't impressed with Bushell, and that's not to say he doesn't have things to work on, but when you can lead a drive like that, to me that was fairly impressive. Let's put it this way. The Steelers fans and part of the national media were already anointing Kenny Pickett because he led a game-winning drive, which means it was the end of the fourth quarter, right? And we saw how bad our guys that we had in the fourth quarter were, and they were celebrating Kenny Pickett doing that. Shane Bushell did that in the second quarter, so, it was against better players, and having a great end of the second quarter drive there, capped off by that Justin Watson touchdown that I thought was almost, basically a perfect throw and a great catch there. So, yeah, we already talked about Crum had the 3 carries for, what did I say? I think 28 yards or whatever it was. But it was really hard for me to evaluate, especially his performances because of the offensive line, at that point. And I'm not sure he really had the receivers to throw to there, especially towards the end of the game. When we got the ball back there in the fourth quarter, it just felt like you knew we weren't going to score. It just had the feeling of these are going to be 3-and-out drives, and that's sad. So, maybe in preseason game 2, I don't know how long we'll see Mahomes and Henne if we see them at all, but maybe in preseason 2 they flip that around, and instead of Bushell being the first one, after Henne, it'll be Crum, just so you can see what he does. But again, maybe Mahomes doesn't even play, and so it's Henne and then Crum and then Bushell. We'll see. But I'm with Thomas here. The whole preseason may be hard to judge, so I think we're going to have to look for small things. But yeah, really it's just going to be a bunch of conjecture on our part, I think. So. That's okay, Liz. We totally understand that, and want to see Aaron get his rest. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know. Sometimes you're just, There's nothing that words can convey or do, but you guys know that you guys are always in our thoughts, and we're there with you guys mentally and emotionally. We understand. So yeah, that's true, Night Hunter. There's not as much playing time available for all those in camp. And the hard thing is, in a way, not only do you go from 4 games to 3, but the cut downs are different. So we're only cutting down, well, I guess they can cut down more if they want to, but they only have to cut 5 guys by Tuesday, and then, 5 more by the following Tuesday. So going into preseason game 3, you can have 80 guys that are still on the roster. And, I guess if you figure that who your first team is, by then you can subtract 25 guys from it, or 22 guys from it, because you're probably still going to have special teams those 3 guys play. But, that's still a lot of guys out there. Maybe they already have their second team wrapped up by then as well. So then you're looking at 36 guys or so that they play for preseason game 3, and they're basically fighting to be one of the last 9 guys. I'm not really sure there, so. Yeah, probably. I don't know that we know that for sure, though. I don't know how they're going to approach it, but, I'm not sure, especially given the changes. Obviously the first drive looked really great, but, I think preseason game 2 is probably going to determine, what happens for preseason game 3, because you still want to see the first team offense continue at least what they did in preseason game 1, if not, improve upon that, greatly in preseason game 2. So that's kind of my thinking on it, but we'll definitely see what happens there. If any of our starters go down, it's going to look rough real quick. Yeah. Gooch wasn't here at the beginning, but I basically disagree with that, and I explained why. I mean, there's a difference between a bunch of backups working together, right, compared to fitting one backup in an offensive line or whatever with a lot better players. And so any weaknesses they have are minimized, whereas all these backups playing next to each other, their weaknesses aren't minimized. Their weaknesses are all amplified, next to each other. So, as a collective unit, they look bad. Individually, they look bad, but, put them with the first team or even if they're third team, put them with the second team, and, you can get a clearer picture with some of that. So, that's where I'm at. I think there's a good number of backups that won't look as bad, if they had to play with the starters, or, third stringers playing on the second team compared to playing with a peer of second or third stringers or fourth stringers. So yeah, it's kind of like what we already said, right? We don't know if it's the running backs or if it's the, the backup offensive line, groupings, so I mean, it is what it is. We'll figure it out, but right now there's not a whole lot that we know and can do. So just hope the guys grow and trust the coaching staff. Everybody's watching film. Everyone knows what they need to work on, and expect that the practices this week will be good practices, and what we see next week will be cleaner football. Yeah, that's about it. I agree, Knight. It's a bit too early to judge that, but we got to have something to talk about. We have to have something, you know, like I said at the beginning of the show, we all kind of have our expectations, and, you know, players get built up. You know, players got built up in OTAs, players got built up all throughout training camp before preseason games. And so, you know, we expect big things based off of that, you know, in a preseason game. And so, you know, when you have high expectations, it's easy, you know, to be let down. But, you know, at the end of the day, again, this, you know, for us, it was entertainment or enjoyment or, you know, whatever. For them, this was like their classroom. You know, this was their lab, you know, to put it in classroom, I guess, terms. It was their lab. So they were getting their hands-on, you know, exposure here. So everybody can figure out where they're at and what they need to work on. Knight says, and if the coaches think they did bad as we think, pretty sure this next week at camp is going to be hell. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what they, you know, what they would have thought that they did bad at. You know, if they thought players were out of, were not properly conditioned, you might see a bunch of running. If, you know, if players weren't playing with proper technique, you know, I'm sure they'll just like really hammer in the fundamentals. If players don't know the plays like they should, you might see them start to slip down the depth chart. You know, some of that, you know, it could be motivational, and it could be that way with some of the veterans. We're not really, you know, we don't really know, but we can only assume there and offer up conjecture. Hey, Holly, it's good to see you, Holly. Excuse me, Queen Holly. Herring hasn't played since 2020. They might have just wanted to get him snaps, let him get back in his groove. That is true. That's absolutely true. But Stallworth was out there too into the fourth quarter. And maybe particularly with Stallworth, and then bringing in, you know, Danny Shelton, maybe that speaks, you know, something to him. Maybe it doesn't. You know, I think that defensive end group, you know, speaking of Herring though, I think that defensive end group is starting to get maybe a little crowded now. You got Frank, you got Dunlap, you got Dana, you got Kando, you got Karloftis. That's, you know, that's 5 right there. And I might be forgetting someone other than Herring as well. So, you know, do they need 6? Yeah, you know, I'm not sure, because, you know, how often are you going to have that many guys out there, you know, on the D line, especially if you're only in your base around 25% of the time, you know, 75% of the time, you're going to have 3 D linemen or less out there. So, in total. And if we have 6 just at, you know, on our edge, and then we add in Chris Jones and Naughty and Wharton and maybe Saunders or Shelton, you know, we're getting up there. And then if you throw in Stallworth, that's 5 or 6 right there. You know, so you'd be looking at 12 defensive linemen if all these guys make it. So, see here. I'm trying to get caught up here with the chat. Thomas asks, does Rojo possibly get traded? You know, I know Gooch has an opinion on this one. I'm not sure how much value he has. But I think if there was a team that didn't value pass protection and they just wanted a running back, you know, maybe you could work something out there. You know, he's only making somewhere a little over $1 million. So, you know, it's not like it would be an expensive addition for another team. I'm just not sure if anyone would really give us anything. It would be, you would have to have some competition. You'd have to have multiple suitors that wanted Rojo in order to even make it worth it. Because otherwise teams are just, they know you're probably going to cut him and they're not going to give you anything. They're only going to give you something, if Rojo doesn't, is going to make it seem like he won't go there, as a free agent, or if they think the competition, is going to make him more expensive than what he already is. So that's my feeling on it. I wouldn't be too confident that a Rojo trade would happen. I think it'd probably just be a straight up cut, and another factor in that is, it's kind of how they are with veterans. You cut the veteran, you let him go, get his money and go wherever he wants to go. That way when, there's other veterans and you want to try to get and bring in, like a Carlos Dunlap, you have your history of treating veteran players with respect that makes them more inclined, to trust you and trust your organization and feel comfortable signing with you. So I'm not really sure what you're talking about here, Knight. What exactly you're talking about being Andy's MO. I'm about 25 minutes behind in the chat, it looks like. Casey DEWH21 says, just happy that Sorensen is gone. Yeah, I'm looking forward to Sorensen and Matthew playing together. I hope Sorensen doesn't get cut by the Saints, just so I can see them playing again this year and have a little fun out there. Yeah, I don't know if it was to motivate CEH. I've been saying the last couple of months I felt like it was insurance for CEH. Especially with them, with everything that's happened injury-wise and recovery-wise from surgery last year and just everything that went on. But, yeah, I mean, I suppose it could be some motivation to try to make himself become better at all the little things that he still has to improve on. Line up Burton at tailback and let him run goal line. You know what? At this point, it couldn't hurt anything. If it were me though, I'd go ahead and put Colin Saunders back there and let him run some of those in. I think that would be fun to see, and I think he's quick enough that he could do it. Reed likes to disguise even simple run plays. Yeah. Yeah, Pacheco, I think at this point, Pacheco's got to be putting some fire under CEH since it really looks like he's kind of 1B or 2A or, however you want to look at it. What we know is he played a lot of the first team, first drive, and he went off the field when Mahomes went off the field, so... Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to 5 running backs with Burton. I'm really interested in what they do, though. My feelings right now is that Rojo gets cut. I think it's going to be a battle between McKinnon and Gore, and I think McKinnon has the upper hand here. Over, who gets cut and sent to the practice squad and who doesn't. To me, I can't get over the fact, though, that they basically protected McKinnon, all of last season and then basically saved him for the playoffs where, he just ran all over everybody. But, I mean, do you keep him on the roster to do the same thing this year, or are they just going to, let them run and use them up, or what's the plan there? I'm not really sure, but if they're going to try to save him like they did last year, I don't see the point of keeping him rostered as opposed to putting him, trying to get him on the practice squad and then bringing him up, when you have an injury or when if Pacheco doesn't show as good or if Gore doesn't show as good or whatever, whatever the case is. Holly says, is it just me or does CEH have a knack for running right into the middle of a pack of defenders? I think we've all talked about how he dances around a little too much. But, again, I think it's that lack of explosiveness thing. Some guys just learn, let's go back to someone like Reggie Bush. He ran all over college defenses. He looked like he was going to be a generational NFL talent, and he just looked so dynamic in college. And then he got to the NFL. He just didn't run away from defenders the same way he did in college. So, CEH played in the SEC, but it sure looks like the defenders in the NFL are too fast for all the stuff that he did in college and wants to do in the NFL. Yeah, I mean, I understand, the nostalgia there. You remember how the offense looked, and we remember those days where we were using the running back to legitimately be, a receiver and using the running game, and having success with it and having a fairly balanced and beautiful looking offense. So I understand the nostalgia there, but, I think people have to come to grips with the fact that it's not going to happen. So. Night Hunter says, as a fan of 50 years, I learned one immutable fact. Preseason, no matter how good it looks, still means zero zilch. It's there to evaluate and to elevate and make cuts or alleviate. I'm not sure what you're going for there. And make cuts. That's all it's going to be. Now, are you trying to say that the fact that the Ravens have been undefeated in the preseason since 2015 or 16 has absolutely no bearing? Have you not seen how many rings they've won since then? Knight, come on. For those of you who didn't catch up on the sarcasm there, that was definitely sarcastic. Alan, it's good to see you. Alan is already in Monday, I believe. Alan joining us from, is it Queensland? Alan? In Queensland time, so I think 15 hours ahead of us. So 11 a.m. Monday morning, Alan. You've already started the week for us, I believe. So good to see you. Good to see you with us here again. We were chatting about the preseason game and whatever you guys want to talk about. So we're glad that you're with us. So Gooch is here. I think he's mainly just listening and working, and Aaron is trying to rest up. So we'll miss him, but hopefully we see him next week, and yeah. All right, I'm getting caught up here a little bit. Liz, he's probably just got it muted because he's on the toilet. Oh, I guess I should go this one first. When do we know who's getting cut? Holly says, I believe it's Tuesday that we have to cut at least 5. Or your birthday, your time. So, wait, Alan, is your birthday next Wednesday? My wife's birthday is Thursday. Wait, let me count up the days. Yeah, Thursday. Yeah, that is correct, Holly. It is Tuesday, and then the following Tuesday is another 5. We have to be down to 80 by then, and then it's like August 30th, I want to say, is when we have to be down to 53. So we have to cut from 80 to 53, so that's 27 players at that following week. So that'll be the hard cuts, and so most of these guys probably are going to be pretty easy cuts, but there'll probably be 6, 8, 10, maybe even close to 12. Probably not, though. It's probably going to come down to 6, 8, 10 guys, and most of them I would expect are going to be guys that Dave Tobe is making the final call on, to be honest. But, we'll see. Knight says, one of the reasons I've always liked Andy Reid is he keeps players in a positive environment and yet lets them know there's always something to improve on. Yeah, and I think, one of the things that, I got out of Gooch in my interview with Jason Dunn, and I'm always trying to grow as a fan. I know I've grown a lot as a fan, but, especially from where I started out as I was younger. But, just continuing to try to be sensitive towards, players are people, that, that kind of mindset. It's hard because, I like to have fun and joke around and stuff. And, we joke around about Frank Clark, and we joke around about Sorensen and Neiman and stuff. And, I had some jokes I was going to do on Twitter the other day, but then you talk to Jason Dunn and you hear him. I can't remember if this was the episode that already aired or the one that will air next Friday, but, he talks about, like your kids come home and they talk about, so-and-so said, Dad, said you only caught 3 balls and, you suck, and, or your dad sucks and this and that. And it's like, it's hard because you want to keep some humor, but, you don't want to tear a player down at the same time, I guess. And so, I'm trying to work on that kind of, some of the cognitive dissonance there going on as a fan who likes humor, but also wants to be kind of sensitive of players are people. They're not robots. They're not like they are on Madden. They're actual human beings, and I think that Andy does a great job with that. So that's why you get that, really get that positive environment. And I know in this next episode, not to spoil, a whole lot, but Jason talks about Coach Dick Vermeil, and what he meant and what kind of coach he was, and Gooch and Jason talk a lot about the type of person, and get really, kind of deep into, this positive and loving environment. And I think we all kind of understood, if we saw Dick Vermeil, we can all remember, how easily he would be moved to tears. So I don't think it's going to be that surprising for us. We don't see Andy moved in that same way, outwardly, but I think we all kind of see, he shares kind of that same kind of heart. So Thomas asks, who do you think will be the wide receiver room come week 1? I know it's early. So I think it's going to be 6 players. I know Gooch has said he thinks it's going to be 7 players. The same 4, obviously, and not in order, but Hardman, Sky Moore, Juju, and MVS. And then if you pressed me to only pick the 2, I would say at this point Dries Fountain and Justin Watson. If I put those in order, it would be Watson and then Fountain, about how, confident I am. I think Watson is he's got a spot. Unless he completely screws up, or he were to get injured, I think he has a spot locked up. So those are my 5 locks. And then, I'm fairly confident about Dries Fountain, but, I also think it's possible, I'm not willing to completely cut ties on Josh Gordon. And so I think this is where Gooch comes in with his 7th spot. But since, I'm at 6, because Veach said 5 or 6, I guess at this point I have Gordon on the outside looking in. But, if something happens and Fountain, starts looking worse the next 2 games and Gordon really starts to shine, obviously you could switch those guys around. But, for me, it comes down, the last spot at this point comes down to Fountain or Gordon in my mind. So that's where I'm at with the wide receivers. Yeah, Alan, some teams have already made cuts. It's interesting. I kind of wondered why maybe we haven't, but maybe we have, we just haven't announced them, or, maybe they're really being diligent with this, and, maybe these decisions are a lot harder for the coaching staff than they look to me or maybe you guys. Holly says she doesn't expect to be called queen. Night Haunter just spoils her. Hey, that's fine. There might be people out there that say all women should be called queens, and it is what it is. So there's nothing wrong with being spoiled, as long as it doesn't show up in your your attitude. It's okay for other people to spoil you. It's not okay to act spoiled. That's what I meant to say there. Alan said Queen in America. That would be a first. You guys are having fun in the chat here. I got myself another 20 minutes behind here again. We already have a prince on the team. Why not a queen? Okay, Knight said that using Colin Saunders would be a headache on goal line for DCs around the league. I think it would be fun, and I know Ryan would be for it, and I think probably Ryan Tracy would be for it. I know a lot of us might be for it as well. But I mean, right? We've seen him. He played a little fullback, if I remember right, in college, right? And he's definitely athletic. Colin Saunders is, and Colin, if you're watching this, Colin Saunders is like the Chris Farley of football, right? For like being a big guy who's like ridiculously athletic for his size. So, and for some of us, he might remind us of Don Tari Poe. So, yeah, I agree, Knight. I think if Gore had a better day, it might have been an interesting discussion with McKinnon, versus Gore. Especially, like I said, the way that they seem to really be saving McKinnon for the playoffs last year. And I want to say he's like 31, going into the season. And, with all the injuries he's had, I understood why they saved him last year. But, if they were wanting to do the same this year, would it make sense to keep him on the 53-man, during the regular season if they didn't have to? And maybe they do have to. And I know, if Gooch was able to talk, he'd chime in and say they definitely have to. And I wouldn't argue against that. But I can't really, as much as I like Gore and as much as I want to root for him, and I do want to preface this, that, he's still a 28-year-old, running back. Just because he was a practice squad guy doesn't mean he's young. And he's never really learned to pass block. He didn't have the best catch opportunities yesterday or good results. And then he had the fumble. And it's hard for me to necessarily blame him for the fumble because I have to ask myself, what could he have done better there? And he apparently injured his neck, on that play that he fumbled. And I'm not sure exactly what that injury is, or if it somehow could have contributed to the fumble or, was part of the result of the play or what. But I mean, it's hard to see Gore, like, it's all uphill, right now. So, and you know what? He was a long shot to make the roster last year, but we did see him on the roster. So, and that's something we couldn't say for someone like Cornell Powell. So, you never know. It's one preseason game. We'll see what happens in preseason game 2. Alan asks, who is getting cut? Who are the 5? Thoughts? And Gooch, if you're able to listen here, if you're able to talk, I'm going to ask you if you can jump in here and participate with us on who your thoughts are on the 5 cuts. And I don't know if Gooch can join in here with us or not, but this is a hard one because it could be they could cut 5 guys that they know are the 5 worst, the 5 guys who definitely have no chance of making this roster. They could be cutting 5 guys that they know they want to put on the practice squad. They could be looking at some of those veterans. We talked about Rojo, some of those veterans that they want to give a fair chance, an early opportunity to catch on with another team. I think for me, I would feel the most comfortable in saying Rojo, and I'll probably be wrong on that, and so you guys can all laugh at me in a week, but I would say Rojo. I think you're probably going to see 2 or 3 wide receivers on there, and I don't have the full roster there, but I think there's like 14 wide receivers or so, and something like that. And so I think whoever they are, we might see 2 or 3 wide receivers right there. I'm not sure there's a whole lot of players that stood out as players that were screaming, I should be cut immediately. My personal feeling is that Austin Ryder has no business on our roster. So if it were up to me, he would be one of the guys. So I would probably go Rojo, Austin Ryder, and probably a couple receivers at the end of the depth chart that I don't have in front of me here. And maybe one of the other end of the depth chart offensive linemen off the top of my head. I don't know if Gooch can jump in here or not. But if Gooch jumps in, Gooch can jump in here. Yeah, elevate. All right, I think I read it that way the first time. Thanks, Holly. Knight answers my question about how many Super Bowl rings the Ravens have, despite having not lost a preseason game since, 2015, 2016. Like the last time, I think the last time the Ravens lost a preseason game was the last time anyone other than the Chiefs won the AFC West. The toilet is the best thinking spot for Gooch, I'm pretty sure. So, unless I could never forget my wife's birthday. I'm insulted by that. But it sounds like Gooch was getting ready to say something, so I'm going to be quiet and let Gooch chime in here from the toilet.
Got nothing to say. I'm not on the toilet. Just sitting there, hanging out.
Nothing to say. Just wanted to let us know that he wasn't on the toilet. Now, going back to what Knight said, right? He has nothing to say because he's not thinking, and that's his best thinking spot. So clearly, he wasn't on the toilet. If he had something to say, we'd know he was on the toilet, since that's his best thinking spot. But Liz, all I'm going to say is, and I know you're joking around with Aaron, but give the poor man a break. So, oh, Lego is in the chat, and every time Lego joins the chat, I get this mysterious craving for waffles. So, Lego, it's good to see you. We're just kind of talking about the first preseason game, and some of us are overreacting, and some of us are underreacting, and some of us are just getting irritated listening to my kids. Not me. I'm sure somebody out there though. Knight says that Vermeil was a class act no matter where he coached. Totally true. And like I said, the second interview, well, the second part of the interview we did should be up on RGR for a Roguehead Huddle Friday, or maybe next Friday, one of the next 2 Fridays, and part of that was the Dick Vermeil conversation. Gooch asked some really awesome questions, which is great because Gooch usually makes me ask all the questions, and so yeah, it's a very Gooch and Jason Dunn centric episode, but it's awesome. It's really awesome content, so make sure you guys go check that out whenever we get that one released over in RGR there. Alan says, I bet both teams will be happy playing on a superb surface rather than Soldiers Field. Yeah, and you know what? We should at least celebrate the fact that there weren't really any injuries caused by the field there. I think I read that the Chiefs field crew themselves went to examine it. I believe is what I read, and they just said it. Like the field was fine. It is just had like some surface blemishes that made it look worse than what it is. But it's an interesting topic, from everything I've read, because it's not the Bears' responsibility to do the upkeep on it. It's the city of Chicago's, or the city of Chicago's parks department or something like that, since they rent from the city, and the agreement apparently stipulates that the parks department is supposed to take care of it. So you guys know how all that goes. It's all political, whatever. So, which is unfortunate. The players could get hurt from it, but it is what it is, and we'll probably see fields in worse and worse conditions, especially as teams, including the Chiefs, try to find ways to monetize their stadiums by having concerts and stuff there. So, but you definitely want player safety to be a bigger priority than it seems to be at times. That's true, Liz, and I don't know. Has there been an update? I saw a few days ago that Lenny Dawson was apparently placed in hospice, but I haven't seen anything more about that. But certainly, we're thinking of his family and thinking about a Chiefs legend. So. Now, Knight, do you have a dog or do you have moles or anything that are digging in your yard? I'm just curious there. Yeah, I can totally understand, that. Even though I can't relate to it since I'm not nearly, that old, but I'm getting old enough that a lot of people, that I grew up, watching, whether it's sports or, actors or whatever, especially this last year, it seems like a lot of people, which makes you feel really old and really starts making you think about your own mortality. And I guess the positive there is it starts making you think more about what really matters in life instead of, some of the things that we kind of overreact to, like, and speaking of people, there was a coach Mike, I forget his last name now, but he was coaching like 9U football. I want to say somewhere in Texas, and got shot apparently by Aqib Talib's brother over a football game, and it's just stupid. And it's like, we got to change some cultures that think that things like that are okay, that think it's even, okay to bring weapons to, kids games or to take sports, especially kids sports, so seriously.
Now, taking them to kids sports games, I understand is a little rough, but I go grocery shopping with mine. Just in case while I'm shopping for food, somebody gets careless and I have to let the big dog eat. You know what I'm saying?
Alan says he's sure that Elton John was happy with the field. I'm sure he was.
The NFLPA wasn't happy with the field in Chicago.
Why do you think our grounds crew was? I'm pretty sure I read that they inspected the field beforehand, and they signed off on it.
They had to, because the NFL wasn't going to cancel it. The NFL wasn't going to postpone. The NFL wasn't going to cancel. So in other words, they had to basically think, is this the worst possible field we can have and still keep our players safe?
I mean, I think they should have just moved it to Northwestern's field and just, but whatever. Like I said, I guess we didn't really have any injuries from it, so that's the good thing, and you can only control what you can control, and I guess that's the best outcome, is we didn't have a bunch of injuries, because that would have been ugly, and it would have been really angering. So I guess kudos to our training staff and the equipment guys who apparently picked out good cleats and whatever. So Alan thinks Fountain will make it. Gordon won't play special teams. Yeah, that's true. Watson could. They could go with 7. They could go with 7 wide receivers. I'm going off of what Brett Veach says, but
and what Gooch says. Gooch says 7.
Gooch says 7. Yeah, I told him you said 7. We also don't know, or I haven't heard anything more about Blake Bell's injury yet. Have you guys heard anything about Blake Bell's injury? Because if he's injured and they only roll with 3 tight ends, that might definitely open the door for 7 wide receivers. Knight asked, could you see him doing a backflip into the end zone and then catching a pass? That would be funny. Now, Holly, was it you the other day that asked what the definition of a trick play is? If so, I'm going to ask, would you guys consider that a trick play?
What a trick play.
Holly asked if Colin Saunders did a backflip, or was it Holly? Let me go back and read it. Oh, Night Hunter asked, or said, could you see Saunders doing a backflip into the end zone and then catching a pass? So Saunders does a backflip, ends up in the end zone, and then he catches a pass as he comes down from his backflip. Lego said,
Circus old Chiefs.
Lego says Saunders has great agility and speed. Hopefully it'll help him this year, and he makes the 53. Hey, Gooch, let me ask you this. Who do you think has more explosiveness as a running back, CEH or Colin Saunders?
The fact that I actually have to think about that scares me.
That is kind of sad, isn't it?
I actually think Colin Saunders has more explosiveness, but I'm not here to trash CEH because the one thing he is good at, even at LSU, is he was good in a phone book. So shiftiness, he's still like he might have the edge on Pacheco and the rest of them there. I just don't think he has the explosiveness to hit the line hard.
Yeah. Maybe the secret is going to Taco Bell before games, and maybe that'll help him get that little explosive edge he needs to burst through the line.
That's the wrong kind of explosion we want. That's I mean, that's explosive, but that puts him in a bathroom, not on the football field.
Well, I mean, then he can hang out with you and ask for your autograph and stuff.
I mean, who doesn't want my autograph? Do we have an email address?
Do we have an email address?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the old one, though, before we changed the name of the channel. So it's bakdiscussions@gmail. It's on the YouTube page there. How do I get involved on these lives? Well, you can send us an email at that email address, and we can send you a link on a Sunday night, or maybe we can even hook you up on a midnight and send you a link, and you can join us on there. Let's see. Alan says, after the O-line reserves failure, would Veach be looking elsewhere already or wait? Alan, I believe that with Brett Veach, I don't think it matters whether they're failing or not. I think Brett Veach is always looking for upgrades. You know, I think that they were probably scouting all the other preseason games, and they're always looking for improvements on the roster. You know, even if they're marginal improvements at the bottom of the roster, or you know, whether they're the second string or what, that they're always going to be looking for those, whether the guys on the team are failing or not. So, you know, I think that's just Brett Veach's nature. To be looking to upgrade the roster always, and I can guarantee you, they're looking at roster cuts. They're looking at guys that they anticipate are on the roster bubble. They might even be trying to make a trade or two, and maybe even for some of the guys that are on our roster bubble. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to see. But I would definitely assume. I expect that we will add a player from another team who gets cut. You know, it seems like every year we add at least one player from another team who gets cut, or we make a trade for a guy who's probably going to get cut. You know, what was it? Was it the Charvarius Ward trade? Was it Charvarius Ward that we traded Parker Ehringer for? I don't remember now, but you know, they're always looking to make those kinds of trades and add some players where they can, and they're always looking at other teams' rosters to find other guys who may be improvements over what we have.
Man, my nieces and nephews are going hard in the paint.
Yeah, I'm about ready to throw a flag for personal fouls. Knight says that he doesn't buy any hype until it counts. Yeah, and I totally understand that. You know, I don't think that we're here trying to overhype anyone. You know, a lot of what you're going to get from me is my opinions, and obviously a lot of it's conjecture. I'm not a team insider. I'm not friends with the team insider. A lot of it is just kind of looking and studying what they've done in the past, and just kind of my own thoughts on things. But I'm with you. I try not to get too hyped up about players, but I certainly fall into the trap of formulating expectations for certain players, based on what we see or hear, up to this point, and even in the game, because we did see some good plays, in the preseason games. So, yeah. That's right, Liz. There is an email. It should be on the About page there on our channel that you can send an email to. So feel free to do so. It's nice to have friends of the channel send those emails rather than that email folder to be filled up with spam. So. Lego, I haven't seen one. That's what I was asking myself, if anyone had seen any update on it. I haven't seen an update on Bell. I also read that Derek Gore hurt his neck on that fumble, on the play that he fumbled on. And so, yeah, I haven't heard anything about any of the injuries. We might not hear anything until tomorrow. That's very true, Holly. We do sometimes think of them as being immortal, and so yeah. Lego says, as far as he knows, I think this is Bell's non-contact hip injury. As far as I know, or as far as I seen and know, it was just a green and brown turf monster that grabbed his foot. He fell and grabbed his hip and limped off the field. Yeah, those monsters. Yeah, like I said, we'll probably hear something tomorrow. It may not be, it might not be the full answer. It might just be a short Andy answer, or it could be a detailed answer. So, Alan says, down here, we just banned parents for life from sidelines for bad behavior. Yeah, Alan. In this case, it was a full-on brawl, from what I seen. Like, it was 20 people or so fighting, and one of them, allegedly, Aqib Talib's brother, pulled out a gun and, shot the opposing coach or something. I don't know all the details on that, but my understanding was that I think Aqib and his brothers were coaching one of the teams, I think, and so there was some kind of argument or something going on. But and I guess in this case, if that's true and they were coaching, then it wasn't even necessarily like parents as fans. It was I don't know if it was his kids he's coaching or what, but so. Oh, I see Liz jumped out of here, so sorry to miss you, Liz. I know you'll probably jump in and listen to this at some point, but have a good night, and hopefully you have a better week ahead here. So we'll be thinking of you guys, and we appreciate you guys. Yeah, I mean, Holly, when I first saw your question here, I had to think about it, because you can, depending on how literal you get, even something like play action could technically be defined as a trick play, right? So, I mean, it really kind of depends on how literal you want to get to what a trick play is, and I think that's probably what you were kind of getting at in asking what the definition of a trick play is. I would say generally when people are talking about a trick play, they're talking probably about something extra over, a normal, something like a play action play. Something creative, maybe something that teams generally don't see. Whether, I think you could maybe consider the Hail Mary to be a trick play, because it's not something that teams really saw. But I mean, yeah, it's a good question because, technically you could count those Blake Bell, fourth and short situations as kind of a trick play. Definitely the Rose Bowl right play that the Chiefs ran in Super Bowl, 54, where everybody shifted, did a synchronized shift, would be considered probably, kind of the epitome of what a trick play is considered in most people's minds. So I would say probably something that's more abnormal and not, fairly regularly seen. Like a normal screenplay, you see a lot of screenplays often, but if it's something like super creative, again, kind of like the Hail Mary, you might put that as a trick play. And so that's my best answer. But if Gooch wants to give an answer, or anyone in the chat wants to contribute their answer, we can all talk about it. It's an interesting question that we probably don't really think about, and we just talk about, use the terminology and think about trick plays without really thinking too deeply about them. Holly asks, would Justin Reed kicking the PAT be considered a trick play? I would say probably not. It's an interesting play. If Justin Reed was an offensive player and, the offense came out on the field like they were going to go for it and, got the defense to, bring like their dime package out, and then one of our, like say Justin Reed was a receiver or a running back instead of a safety, and then, all of a sudden we did an audible and he lined up for the, for a field goal or something, then I think you get into a trick play area. So, but I mean, I can see where you're coming from, because then, I guess technically any wildcat snap could be considered a trick play as well. So, I mean, maybe you could go there, if Travis lined up at quarterback and he threw a pass, you might consider that a trick play. Alan says it would be better if Saunders caught it first and then did the backflip into the end zone. Lego agrees that Saunders would be a beast at running back. Robert, thank you for joining us. Yeah, it's good to have other people in the chat here, new names and faces in the chat here. So thanks for tuning in to listen. If this is your first time, usually BAK, we're all here, but Aaron is gone and Gooch is jumping in from time to time here. So I'd say this is abnormal, but it's kind of normal just because of where, sometimes life dictates. Our live streams aren't necessarily all three of us. And sometimes you have my kids yelling in the background. So, but it's 90 something degrees here and I think it's fairly quiet for 8 kids. So Holly said, or catching it in the air while he was doing the backflip. Definitely a trick play. If Saunders could catch it in the air while doing a backflip, that would go down in my mind as one of the all-time greatest plays, probably catches ever. I would love to see it. It would literally be, I don't want to say literally because then I'm going to be figuratively using the word literally. And so it would remind me of like, is it Chris Farley in Beverly Hills Ninja. Was that the movie? I think, where you kind of get some of those kind of weird martial art scenes where guys are like floating up in the air or whatever, and so that's where my mind goes. But and Knight's adding to it, so we have Mahomes throwing a behind the back pass to Colin Saunders, who does a backflip and catches it mid backflip and lands in the end zone. Is that what we have going on here? Oh, I see Knight had to jump out as well. Yeah, we're probably not going to go much longer here either, guys, but we'll go here a few more minutes. Yes, Gooch?
Oh, nothing. I'm just here listening.
So Gooch, what do you think about the play that the chat has created? Hungry Pig Right. I don't think that name's long enough, though, is it?
I was listening, and I mean, all I really gotta say is if anybody can pull it off, I'm sure it's Patrick and this offense.
All right, let's see. Saunders' number is what? 99. This play is not, the name of this play is not long enough, guys. We got to add a lot more to it. So, Hungry Pig. I think Saunders is 99, isn't he? Hungry Pig 99. RT. Let's see. How would we do behind the back pass? Hungry Pig 99. RT. Pat Special. CFTD. Chris Farley touchdown. That's what we'll call it. All right, someone's got to draw this up so we can send it in to Andy Reid so we can guarantee that Saunders gets to keep his spot on the 53-man roster. When are back passes or sideways passes allowed? So sideways passes, as long as they are lateral passes, they're legal all the way down the field, right? If they go forward at all, that's when it becomes an illegal forward pass. But you could, and we've seen some of these trick plays going back to Holly's question. We've seen some of these trick plays in the NFL before. You can even see them on. There's been some kick returns where they've done it. As long as that throw goes laterally, it's a completely legal play. The problem is you get one guy running, on one side and another guy running on the other side, and it's hard to throw it without it moving forward at all. If that angle is anything greater than 45 degrees here. I think I got my math right. No, I guess that would technically, no, not 45. I guess it'd be 0 degrees, right? Duh. But yeah, if it's even anything remotely more than lateral, then it's an illegal forward pass. Between the guys there. But yeah, I mean, you could take off running for 10 yards and you can throw it laterally to another guy, as long as it's laterally or backwards. So, all right. And I'll say, I'm a little bit limited in rugby. I learned a little bit from a video game, but it's probably been about 15 years ago. And then we had a couple kids from Australia move into my small town a few years later, and they were big into rugby. But mainly that's my extent with rugby. I kind of got to get back to watching it. But all All right, we have some attempts here to name it. So Lego says no, Hungry Pig Right is already A-OK. Andy's book we ran you take twice, and yeah, I guess they have kind of shortened up some of those names, but Holly says Hungry Pig 99 Reverse PM Power Flip Special. Flip Special. That probably sounds better than what I came up with. Let's see, Lego. Oh, you're just typing more correct what you already said, so. Hungry Pig, I don't know. I kind of like what Holly said. Hungry Pig 99 Reverse PM Power Flip Special. Either way, whatever we want to call it, I think it works. So we got to get that drawn up for Andy Reid. If not, one of us can draw it up and we can frame it and we can sell it. And get Colin Saunders to sign it. I know he would sign off on the play himself, so. Oh, Hungry Pig is already a trick play. You know, and maybe Colin Saunders doesn't really care to be called a Hungry Pig. How about we replace Pig with Ninja?
Hippo.
With Ninja? What'd you say?
Hippo.
Hippo. Hungry Hippo 99 Reverse PM Power Flip Special. Do you sign off on that one, Gooch?
I would, and that's no disrespect, Colin. Or anybody watching that might run back, JD. I was just playing.
Yeah, we're not trying to be... Well, I think people understand we're not trying to be disrespectful because we really believe... Like, you know, we're joking around a bit, but we really do want to see Colin Saunders get to have some carries and stuff because we really do believe in his athleticism and you know, we're certainly rooting for guys like Colin Saunders to make the roster and to make their mark on both defense and offense. Like I said, we got a taste of that with Dontari Poe, right? Yeah, that would be awesome, Alan. It's, you know, it was never that I didn't like, you know, that I never didn't like rugby. It's just I guess I never really got much more into it from there. So, and there's not really, I don't know that rugby is really televised in the States much, is it? Does anyone know? Is there a way to watch rugby? Like I said, you know, for me, it was, I found there was a rugby video game, I think about 20 years ago that I found and kind of learned the rules by playing it. So I guess one of the positives of video games. All right. Holly's still trying to name this thing. DJ 99 Beats Reverse PM Power Flip Special. Alan, Holly would like to learn more about it too. Let me ask you this, Alan. Do you have the capability sometime to come on a live and actually educate us about rugby? I don't know if that's a possibility for you or not. You know, if you have a setup that would allow you to come on. I don't necessarily know that you would need video, but if you have video capability, that would be better. But certainly, we would love to have you on it if you're able and willing to do that, to talk to us more about rugby. 'Cause, you know, like I said, I think rugby's fun. I just I don't know that I've even come across it really the last few years. We might just have to try to find some rugby videos on YouTube and educate ourselves that way.
It's on ESPN when all the real sports aren't on.
Oh, I'm guessing that's sarcasm, right?
It is. It's why I laughed at the end.
All the real sports like professional thumb war and stuff like that.
Yeah, the slap championships and stuff like that.
Handshake championships. Double Dutch championships. Okay, let's see here. You know, I've already forgotten that one, Holly, but you know, you are the special teams ace here, so yeah. Alan says Australian rules football is even harder to explain. It's like explaining NFL to Aussies. That's why I like video games, because I think you learn kind of faster, as long as the game tells you why you can't do this or that. But that is kind of the generation I grew up in then. So. Well, guys, we've been live for about 2 hours here, so unless Gooch wants to talk with you guys here a little bit, I think we're kind of winding down here.
Yeah, and Gooch has got to get back and do some period-ending paperwork.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can always hire me to do your work for you, Gooch. Okay, I get your connection there, Holly. Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to give you guys a call for any last question or here too, and then I think we're going to sound off here. My wife is working the next 6 days in a row, so I kind of want to spend a little bit of time with her, so... So, last call for any question or topic here, real quick, and then we'll be on our way.
Closing time.
Oh, please tell me what I did to make you sing, so I never do it again. Oh. All right, well, if that's the case, guys, I'm going to let Gooch pay the bills here, and then we'll hit the outro, and we'll see you guys next Sunday night.
Appreciate all y'all joining us. Definitely make it fun to be on here. Thanks, Liz. Thanks, Holly, Knight, Alan, anybody I forgot. Be on the lookout. I might be going live every day for 30 minutes to an hour just to shoot the breeze with y'all. Other than that, make sure you tell somebody you love them.
All right, short and sweet. All right, peace out, everyone. We'll see you guys next week. Have a great week.
You got your team, and we got a kingdom. Ready for war, we score at will. We're the Super Bowl champs, the king of the hill.